A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Greetings and salutations, Jedis and Sith, droids and droidettes. Welcome to episode 6 of Nerd Lives Matter, the podcast for outcasts where every life matters unless you're an uber emo wannabe Sith wham baby bent on fratricide. I'm your host, the Jedi Master with a blaster faster than Jax Daxter, Dwayne Skycracker. And with me as always is the smuggler with a fugglier mug than a hung beetle bug, the guy who has a life play with Dissin Hissin, Abe Cholo. Today is our one and only Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens super spoilerific spectacular review. Now be warned, total spoilers are happening here, so if you've been living in a giant worm cave and have not seen The Force Awakens, you may want to back out now. So, with that said, let's get this thing cracking, man.
Alright,
let's talk about Episode 7.
Yeah. Alright, before we do that, let's go ahead and, this is the spoiler review. This is the big one. This is where we're gonna talk about all the details of the movie. This is where we are gonna give all our thoughts on those details. And also, from here on out, the spoiler ban is lifted. The movie's been out for almost 2 weeks now. You know, if you haven't seen it yet, sorry, but you need to go see it. And so, not only on the Facebook group, but also in the podcast, every weekly episode, we're gonna go ahead and if we make a reference to it, it's your bad. It's going back to the warning spoilers, little parentheses that we have at the beginning of every episode. So, warning from here on out, fucking spoilers. All right.
Yeah. If you've been living in a cave, too bad, man. Go see the fucking movie.
Quit being a Minoc and go be a moviegoer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
this is a long time in coming. Obviously, we took a week off. The holidays. You know, you can blame our families because we were spending time with them.
They suck.
Yeah. So we're back. This is episode 6, and we're gonna forego the regular format. This is basically all one huge Rebel roundup, and of course, as we've said many times already, it's the review. So you've seen it twice now.
Yeah.
Tomorrow at 1 p.m. will be my 5th time, actually. And I think Dwayne and I are going to go again on Saturday or Sunday. I don't remember when.
Saturday, I think we said.
Saturday? Cool. Yeah. So that's going to be my 6th time, his 3rd time. I'm a winner. He's not. I'm
the loser for driving an hour to go see his ass, but whatever.
Granted. Yeah, I can't. I don't have anything to report.
It is what it is. It's all good.
I just had my mug up for that whole spiel, and then I just set it back down. But all right. So yes, let's get into this. Let's get into it. What now? We talked about sort of what you thought, what we thought, in our spoiler-free review last episode. But now that you're able to just sort of just blow your load on everything you've been thinking, well, what do you think about this movie? Go have at it.
I have nothing to say. No, I'm kidding. Son of a bitch! I am still absolutely in love, to tell you, to be honest. I think the more I see it, the more little things kind of nitpick, but once again, I don't give a shit. I'm like, hey, it is what it is. It's a great story. All these little things. I mean, come on, look at episode 4, which is heralded as, the classic, the big one, the greats, and that thing is so full of holes that, it's Swiss cheese, and we all know it. So you can take it for what it's worth. It is what it is. It's a story. It definitely has its minor flaws to it, but I read all of these really harsh reviews, and I'm like, dude, what movie are you watching? What do you want? What are you looking for? If you want to go back to all the CGI bullshit of the prequels, have at it, dude. I'm gonna stick with what we're looking at right here.
Yeah. I agree. I don't get I get the hate because it's the internet. There's always going to be trolls.
Right.
There's always going to be like, that movie was shit. I'm so cool because I don't like Star Wars. It's like, okay, whatever. When you get past all that and you just really watch the movie, you see it. It's great, from the beginning, J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan were talking about making a movie that was going to delight them and delight the audience. This movie's fucking delightful. It's exciting, it's action-packed. And there's some shit that goes down in this movie, man.
Big
I mean,
time.
I think the biggest one, the one that everybody is sort of, I guess the biggest kept secret, is fucking Han Solo, man. My boy dies, dude.
And
Fucking killed by his son, who is Kylo Ren.
I don't care how many times I see it, it just hits me every time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Even the second time around, and actually it was worse the second time around because I actually got to look at the face, you know. The Harrison Ford did such a great job at the shock and the sadness of, you know, my own son just fucking did me in, you know.
Yeah.
It was very nuanced, and you know, you didn't catch it the first time because you were just like blown out of the water by it.
Taken aback, yeah.
Right, but you know, the more you get to see it, the more you start noticing the nuances of the actors and how good of a job they did at that moment, capturing just the insanity of what was going on. And it blew my mind even more, and definitely tugged at the old heartstrings even worse because of that.
Yeah. And I mean, and Harrison Ford deserves all the credit that he's been given for his portrayal of Han in this movie. You know, it's been a big deal has been made out of the fact that it's like he's not phoning it in. It's not like Indiana Jones 4. He is Han Solo. He's not Harrison Ford playing Han Solo. He is Han Solo. And I mean, I think that's great, and it's well deserved, and it's true. But one thing that a lot of people haven't really mentioned, because they're kind of being trolls and sort of making all these jokes about what a whiny little bitch Kylo Ren is or whatever. Adam Driver's performance in that scene, man, his eyes, what he's going through, you know, knowing that he has to sort of do this, he has to make this sacrifice to you know, meet Snoke's, you know, standards or whatever to make this move towards, you know, becoming more dark side. He really does a lot with that, you know. I mean, he approaches Han and he it's like using the same, or he's all the words, all that, his little monologue has a double meaning, you know. He's saying, I know what I have to do, I don't know if I can do it. Han Solo thinks, you know, being his dad, he thinks he's talking about, you know, I'm having trouble getting to the light side, you know, I'm having trouble, you know, I'm being tempted by the dark side. But we all know, because of that scene earlier where he talks to Darth Vader's helmet and says,
it's the opposite.
You know, it's the opposite. And just knowing that, and knowing what's coming, and knowing that he's luring his own dad in to basically be his sacrifice, to be skewered, man, it doesn't get easier every time, you know. I mean, I've seen it, like I said, 4 times now. Yes, 4 times now, and it's there's a different layer to it every time I saw it. The first time, you're absolutely right. It was shocking. It was just like, oh my god, Han Solo died. The second time, it was yeah. I was also studying the actors. I was like, okay, how did they put this scene together? This is really good. And then like the third and fourth time, the third time especially, it hit me really personally, because it's like, here's this you know, arguably whiny little kid who's like, you know, crying about his dad, and his dad is like there trying to help him, to do something for him, and this kid just sort of is like, no, fuck that, I'm gonna kill you. And it's like, just coming from, you know, with my background or whatever, it's like, I would love to have a dad who's like, hey man, I'll help you. So the third time was really, really emotional, and it was like, fuck, this movie, you know, like, this movie is amazing. And then the fourth time, it doesn't get any worse. Every time I see the movie, it's better. At this point, you know, I've seen it, and it still manages to be like, I just keep wanting him to be like, no, Han, no, let go of the lightsaber, run away, shoot him. But, you know, unfortunately, movies don't work like that yet. So,
no, sadly, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the weird things that I had seen with the Kylo Ren character, you know, the whole movie, he is in that total opposite, I'm not being tempted by the dark side, I'm being tempted by the light side kind of feel to it. Which is great, you know, because we all see the opposite with our heroes. So he's got the anti-hero kind of thing going, not an anti-hero in the literal sense, but anti in the opposite sense. You know, he's got the opposite sort of struggle that they have. And one thing I was very curious about was his reaction to Rey, or his reaction to the news that a girl was helping Finn and BB-8 get off of Jakku, because it was very odd how he was very specific about what girl. So I'm kind of curious as to if there's a little bit of you know, foreknowledge in there, or some sort of feeling in the Force or something.
Maybe.
Yeah, like, this is going to actually play in very major farther down the line, which he does end up. It does end up playing very familiar in there because they get the brother, sister, cousin fight, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
Which speculation.
Speculation is running rampant, but
Yeah.
I believe it's one of those. It's one of those, or I also threw out that thought that maybe she's Obi-Wan's granddaughter or something. But there's something there. I mean, he knows that there's something about her. I mean, he offers her, he offers to teach her at the fight at the end. He's like, I can teach you, I can show you the ways of the Force or whatever, and there's something there. Obviously, it's going to pay off in the future movies. Right now I'm loving the fact that there's so much speculation. Like, that's what I love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Leading up to this movie, there was so much speculation about who these characters were, what they were going to be doing, and it all paid off greatly. Now we know that, and we can sort of look forward to what's coming next, which is always fun, which is always great.
Oh, absolutely.
What'd you think about the bromance?
Normally I shy away from, such bromances like this. It was definitely more played down, with Han and Luke. It was nowhere nearly as great. This is very overt. They went out and said, these two guys are going to love each other, just crazy style. And they do, Poe and Finn. Those guys are BFFs, man. They probably have lockets by this point. It's pretty crazy.
I love you. One says I love you, the other one says I know.
Yeah. Nice.
You put them together. It's like the alliance symbol. You put them together.
Nice. But it's done very well, and I like the way it's done,
Yeah.
Like I said, normally I shy away from that hard of a bromance, but, they really put it together in a way that's less Han Luke style and more Han Chewie style, They're developing this extreme bond together so quickly. But, once you're put into that kind of danger that fast, you do develop those bonds. So,
I mean, they were in that horrible like TIE fighter crash together. Like, they both survived that. So yeah.
Exactly. That's a warranted a hug out of nowhere, if ever. I was like, really? They're hugging, but hey.
Jacket.
Exactly. Keep it, brah. You earned it.
Yeah.
But
it suits
whatever.
you.
That Poe.
But yeah, so okay. I guess the next big spoilery thing is Luke's appearance, man. Obviously all the conjecture was, everybody was thinking, oh, he's going to show up in the third act and he's going to save the day. He's going to either kill or, save everybody from Kylo Ren. And no, literally the last, 30 seconds, the last 60 seconds of the movie, she shows up and he pulls down his Obi-Wan robe and it's fucking Luke Skywalker and she just hands him the lightsaber.
Yep.
How'd you feel in that moment?
Well, for one, I saw it coming. I saw it coming a mile away. If you remember, I kept saying that he's not going to be in this, or at least if he is going to be in it, it's going to be very little. I just kind of felt that was coming for many, many reasons. And one of the biggest reasons I kind of felt that was coming was the most practical and real-world reason. I don't think the older stars were quite ready to get in there and get into that much action. Of all of them, obviously, Harrison Ford saw the most action. And even then, you can tell in a lot of places he was kind of trying to keep up. Seeing him running through his smuggler ship, he was just like, oh, it was a chore, it was a burden. And I don't think that was acting.
Out of that, no, I totally agree. Like, there's that one scene where he comes out and he does the cool, he shoots the two guys, and then he just shoots without looking. Like, him coming out of that, it was kind of like, it was old man running. I mean, it really was. But what are you gonna do? Dude's 73 or 74.
Exactly.
And the fact that he was able to pull it off with such panache.
Absolutely. But that's my point. Mark Hamill was just a tad bit of the not in shape variety when this whole thing started. And I honestly think that the whole reason, or one of the biggest reasons they kept him held back, was to get them ready for more excitement in episode 8, get them more in shape, get them more physically more stamina and more ready to actually do some hardcore shit because they're older and I can attest, man. Once you get older, you can't keep up with the 20-year-olds. So
you are.
And I am. And fucking Luke Skywalker's the Jedi Master. He's gonna have to pull some shit, And so that's my practical reasoning for all of that. Story-wise, it works very well because he disappeared. He vanished. He didn't want to be found. He was intent on being a non-person, which kind of confuses me since there's a fucking map. But hey, whatever.
Yeah. That's the other thing I wanted to get into was sort of the idea
Deus
of
Ex.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's there. Like we know we're gonna need it to pull him back in somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's why there's a map. I don't know, but I get the fact that it was the MacGuffin and it's a Deus Ex Machina. What really interests me, sort of less or more so than the fact that there was a map, was the fact that there's this whole sort of search for the map. Like, that's obviously stuff that we're going to get more in the expanded universe, the novels and comics about the search for the map. Obviously, the movie opens with Poe receiving the last piece of the map from Lord Santeca, Max von Sydow. What do you think about him? I was actually really bummed because I thought he was going to be, it's Max von Sydow. Granted, he is a little older, and yeah, maybe he can't do a whole movie or something. But I really didn't think he was going to get killed off in like the first 4 minutes of the movie. I would really like to learn more about this character.
Really, I would too, and I think they could have done more with his character. He could have been something a lot cooler, if they really, really, really wanted to put stuff in there. I mean, maybe the last Jedi that studied with Luke, that could have, that had the location, and Ren was coming after him to finish off everything he was doing. That would have been a decent angle to...
There's already some information about him, actually. Like, I think he has a Wikipedia page. He's not a Jedi. He's not Force sensitive. He knows the Force, I'm assuming sort of the way Maz Kanata does. He's
Obviously.
aware of it, what it does, and he is the last remaining member of something called the Church of the Force, which is something that there's not a lot of knowledge about. I've searched up and down for it. It's literally only mentioning of the Church of the Force is on his Wikipedia page from like some of the official, like, I guess, character write-ups or whatever. So I don't know what that means. I mean, I'm assuming it's somebody who were faithful to the Jedi. They were helpers along them, maybe kind of like an Underground Railroad kind of thing. When all the Jedi were being killed out, these are the people that were helping them. And they just devoted themselves to the Force. But that's who he is. That's my main thing, though, is I want to learn more about what this whole Church of the Force thing is and what Lord Santeca's whole deal is and how he got this last piece of the map to Luke,
Well, it's definitely something that they've established in the new canon, because it was definitely not in there before. Mm-hmm. So if they're going to be filling in gaps, that would be a great place to start with, because I could see that. I could see maybe a religion, because, priests aren't gods. If you kind of come into their whole real-world parallels of it, priests aren't gods. You can have a religion based upon anything, really. So that would be kind of an interesting route to go, I think.
Yeah. I like the idea. I mean, it's weird. It's a little weird because, like, I'm just applying all my real-world beliefs to that. Obviously, it's going to be something super fantastical and Star Wars-y, so... But yeah, I just like the idea that there's followers of the Force that aren't necessarily Jedi, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
Maz Kanata.
Yeah.
Which, again, her castle or the cantina scene was amazing. I mean, it was freaking awesome. All those costumes, all those puppets.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Apparently there was no CGI in that shot.
It harkens back to the cantina scene, which we both know that episode 7 mirrors episode 4 almost, in a lot of places almost shot for shot, or philosophy for philosophy. So, I mean, they definitely took that cantina scene and they harkened it back with Maz Kanata's cantina beautifully. I loved it. It was great. And I'm glad there was no CGI.
Yeah, there was, I was watching the Directors Guild Association interview. It was Lawrence Kasdan interviewing J.J. Abrams, and he said that they wanted to mirror a lot of episode 4, obviously, which is well known. But one thing that I didn't really put together, but that really sort of speaks to that point, is the fact that at the beginning of the movie, essentially, we find a solitary person, a solitary teenager in the desert, and the movie ends with the trench run. which I mean, it seems sort of obvious now, but that's I mean, that's I don't know, that's just pretty cool. I
Really?
like the idea of that. Yeah, yeah, like it's
You
there's the
did catch.
obvious.
You
What's
did
that?
catch that. You did catch that Han is actually Obi-Wan, right? You caught the that whole thing. Han is actually Obi-Wan.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of obvious now looking at it. He's the guy that informs them about the past. He's the one that sort of ushers them through their
Moving.
adventure, and he's
Yeah,
the one
he.
that dies. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. I mean, it's obvious. You know what I mean? I just really like how, if you really look at it, the parallels really are direct parallels. You know, because the whole time I was
Yes.
like, yeah, it's a lot like Episode 4, kind of like you said, philosophically and sort of tonally. But now when you really look at it, it's like, oh, this is an analog for that character. This is an analog for that
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
And people
Totally.
might say, you know, that's a big complaint that a lot of people are having, but I'm just kind of like,
Yeah.
that's really clever because this movie entertained me, you know, just as much as you know, as if it had been an all new movie. I don't know, maybe that says something about what I find entertaining, but I thought it was pretty cool, you know.
No, I agree with you 110%. I mean, I noticed it. I noticed all of that on my first viewing. You know, first time I sat there, I was like, holy shit, this is episode 4, pace for pace in a lot of places. So, you know, and I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. And, you know, we're relatively intelligent individuals who have a nice eye for cinema, so fuck them if they whine about it.
Yeah,
You know,
most of the
and a
people
lot
that are
of
whining
them.
about that probably haven't seen Episode 4 in 10 years. You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
that's
right.
my opinion. But no, I'm sorry.
I
you're
don't,
saying?
I don't know. Anyway, no. I was going back to Maz Kanata's castle and the dream, or the force vision. That really, that was hardcore, dude. That showed quite a bit of things that were both good and bad at the same time. There were some eye raisers there, and there was then some unexpected things that I thought was really, really, really sharp in there. And one of my eye raisers, though, and it brings up a really good question, I think we had talked about this, was the part of her vision when she was a little girl looking up at the ship leaving. And I'm really dying to know what they're going to do with that, because if it was her parents leaving her at that age, she would have known who her parents were. You know, at that age, you're going to remember who your parents are, what they look like, and things like that. So I'm very curious as to how they're going to kind of play that. You know, was she abducted? I don't know. She was left there at that age where she's got to know her lineage. You know, that's
And a thought just occurs to me. Actually, she never actually said anything about parents. She kept saying her family, her family, her family. What if
true.
it's like a non-blood relation family? What if it was, you know, people from the Jedi Temple where she was being raised or whatever that dropped her off? You know what I mean? Like, that's something that I just thought of that right now. I don't know. What do you think about that? Like, do you think that she? I mean, obviously, one of the main rumors or speculation is that she's related to Luke, or that she's related to somebody. What do you think if she is just an autonomous girl who, you know, was just being raised in a Jedi temple?
I'd be a little disappointed. You know, I personally want to see the family bonds. It's what we expect from Star Wars. You know, it's what I expect from Star Wars. Star Wars is very much, and I don't know if they're still holding with Lucas's overall global macrocosmic vision of Star Wars, because what is Star Wars globally about? The Skywalker family, that whole sphere, you know, and I always kind of thought that that's where it would stay too, was in some way, shape, or form, the Skywalker family. Now, obviously, Kylo Ren, yeah, there is that, and I do include the Solos and the Skywalker family. So that does, you know, kind of hold true, but I still would, you know, want to see the central figure of an actual canonical Star Wars movie. Star Wars movie as a Skywalker or in that sphere. So, and you know, that does lead more credence to your theory of Obi-Wan's lineage, because he's been long dead. I would actually see that being more plausible. Oh, she's a relative of Obi-Wan Kenobi, versus being a direct relative of Luke or Han or Leia or something like that, because she would know who her parents were at that time.
Yeah.
Just my theory.
No, and that's that's a valid one. There's 2 points that I want to make. First, I just want to say, actually, I mean, that was just a thought that literally occurred to me right then. The fact that Luke's lightsaber is the one that calls out to her, that to me, hang on, because I think the phone just stopped recording.
I heard a beep.
Yeah. No, I think I was just receiving a Facebook message or something.
Oh, okay, because that was 28 minutes. I was like, you should still have time.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that the fact that it was Luke Skywalker that called out to her sort of does speak to the fact that it is sort of the bloodline. You know what I mean? Anakin to Luke, Luke to Rey. So that's definitely, that has a little bit more credence behind it. But just to, I guess the other point that I want to make, or not point, but I guess the other thing I wanted to elaborate on was sort of the theory about Obi-Wan and her being his granddaughter or something along those lines. Is a lot of people, I think we even said, like, in the first episode of the podcast, like, well, Finn can't be a Windu because Jedi aren't allowed to mate or whatever. And that would have been true in that case because Mace Windu died at the height of right before the Jedi fell. He was a devout Jedi. Obi-Wan, however, went to Tatooine after the Jedi Order fell. So
That's
he
true.
wasn't necessarily bound to those tenets anymore. You know what I mean? And
Very true.
and it's all old canon now, obviously. But you know that I've raved about that book Kenobi. And if he went to Tatooine just to watch over Luke, he sure he could have made himself monkish and stick to the Jedi tenets. But I also think that maybe he was like, well, I mean, there are no more Jedi. I got to be a normal guy. Maybe he fell in love with somebody, had a kid. Maybe they had a kid. You know what I mean? That's something also that I feel is very valid. And also, I mean, that's something that, from a sort of business standpoint, a creative business standpoint, that's a lot of fodder for extraneous material. You can make a whole line of books about Obi-Wan's kids, before Rey was born, and stuff like that. So there's that. But I now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's more along the lines of the Skywalker line because of the lightsaber.
Possibly. That's a very good point. Well, Obi-Wan did have a lot to do with that lightsaber as well. I mean, he handled it several times. His Force essence could have gotten on it too, if you think about it. And you do that. That's a very good, valid point about him. He's in the desert all by himself. Come on, you got to get lonely. You have no one to talk to, nowhere to go, just spying on Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen Lars for a while. That's not going to cut it. So, that does make a lot of sense. I think it's a toss-up right now. I think that it could Skywalker, Kenobi, Solo. It could be either. She could be Jaina Solo for all we know. We're still working on that.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, I mean that whole Force vision was really cool. Of course, I want to talk about just everything that was in that vision. Like it was. Obviously, it was really, there was some fan service there. We get the hall from Cloud City, which is badass. The whole thing, like that shot of the Knights of Ren, it's a big promo shot where they're all standing in the rain. Do you think that is the Knights of Ren killing all of Luke's disciples, or do you think that's a flash forward to something that's going to happen?
Well, I have a feeling that it is the Knights of Ren killing Luke's disciples because Snoke says that Kylo Ren was the last of the Knights of Ren, so they've all been wiped out too, apparently. Did you catch that?
No, I didn't catch that at all. When does he say that?
We might want to double check that, but I could swear he said, "You're the last of the Knights of Ren."
I know he's the head of the Knights of Ren. He's like the leader of the Knights of Ren. But I don't recall him saying the last. But okay, we'll bookmark that and we'll come back to that in a
We'll have to double check that because I was pretty sure that's what he said, but I mean I could be wrong. I haven't seen it 5 times, so yeah.
Neither have I. Yeah.
But they don't generally kind of do a lot of flash forward type stuff. So, I didn't really see it in this one, other than Luke at Dagobah. There was forward there, but I don't know. It would be kind of weird to have backwards and forwards in the same kind of vision. So,
no,
it's a good question. Yeah.
There's a weird speculation about whether or not that's Unkar Plot that's grabbing her and talking to her when she's a little girl and she's like looking off at the ship leaving. I don't know.
I thought it was
any speculation on that. Yeah, it's his hand. It's his voice. It's Simon Pegg's, pitch voice. Like,
I was pretty sure it was.
Okay, cool. Then we're on the same page there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luke and R2 and the fiery Kazumi kind of stuff. I'm not quite sure what that has to do with anything, really.
Ooh, what if he was on Mustafar looking for Vader? Oh, no, because Anakin died at Mustafar. No, Vader was on Endor. I was like, oh, what if he's looking for his helmet on Mustafar? But no, he wouldn't. Yeah, never mind. That was just me thinking.
Yeah, there would be no real reason for him to be on Mustafar, except for the fact that that's kind of where Vader was born, sort of,
Yeah.
the birthplace of the actual evilness. Not counting Coruscant and the slaughter of all the children, but,
Yeah. Or the Tatooine and the slaughter of Sand people.
Yeah, okay, so there was a lot of birthplaces of Vader. Guy slaughtered a lot of fucking people. And yet he gets to become a good Force, he gets to go to Force Heaven. I don't know, I always kind of felt that was a little weird.
Yeah, that's
I guess Hitler gets to go to... Anyway, yeah, so... I'm not quite sure what Luke was doing on a fire planet, volcanic planet, messing with R2 like that. So that part of the vision is very confusing and strange. And then we got the Knights of Ren part, and then we've got Rey being carted off. The slaughter of the apprentices, very, very... the whole reason I think that it was also... The Knights of Ren were into the slaughter of their apprentices because it was the same weather, the same atmosphere, everything was kind of going on at the same time. It was rainy and nasty when they were killing the apprentices, wasn't it?
Was there a shot of them killing apprentices?
I think so. They were fighting, and there was a lightsaber being plunged through somebody, a red lightsaber going through someone.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Good call. Okay. Damn, yeah, and it was rainy. It was like the same tone. It was like the same set, kind of, like, okay, yeah. Damn. But wasn't she also holding a lightsaber in one of those, like, in one of those parts? So I thought that was more along the lines of, like, the Dagobah Force vision, where it was sort of more metaphorical. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she was holding a lightsaber. Who was she was it Ren that she was squaring off against?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
And it was raining and it wasn't snow, so that's why I was thinking, I wonder if it's a flash forward.
Huh,
you know what I mean?
Maybe, you're right, man. They might have just muddled that shit completely and utterly. Just
On
mixed
purpose,
it all
maybe.
together.
Yeah.
Well, visions, dreams, they're always very ambiguous, so...
Yeah, totally, and non sequitur,
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
But then there's also just the cool stuff that we heard. Frank Oz, we recorded some Yoda dialogue for this little bit.
Yes.
The awesome.
Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor just recorded that one line for Obi-Wan, and then them using the audio wizardry. They cut Alec Guinness say the Rey portion of him saying "afraid" from, I think, Empire or Jedi. And so basically they got Alec Guinness saying Rey, and then Ewan McGregor came in and recorded these are your first steps.
Yeah.
Fucking brilliant. That's so fucking cool, yeah.
That was gorgeous. I was like, man.
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in there apparently that was also recorded by Frank Oz, I think, that I haven't heard, and that people are like, there's more in there, but you just have to once it comes out, people are gonna dissect it, I'm sure.
Oh my god, I've been listening so hard for that, and I cannot find out where we hear any Frank Oz, so I'm like, alright, whatever, cool.
Oh, I know, I heard him, he says, what does he say? It's a quote, obviously, from Empire. I want to say it's either the line about defense, like a Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and defense, not for. It's either that one or the. Fuck! I heard it clearly the last time that I watched it, because I was listening for it specifically. I'll write it down, or I'll remember it next time I see it. And that's another bookmark we'll put here for the future pod. But,
so do you think all of that was actually a primer for, and this is my biggest gripe of the whole movie, do you think that this vision was sort of a primer for Rey, for her forced badassery? Her awakening gave her some kind of weird badassery that no other Jedi has ever had, other than Luke, because he was good after 2 weeks of... he was able to hold his own almost with Vader after, 2 weeks on Dagobah with Yoda. Rey gets no training whatsoever, but a pep talk from Obi-Wan in a vision, and suddenly she can manipulate with the Force. She can use Force telekinesis to get the lightsaber to her. I mean, that was my biggest gripe with the whole movie, was Rey's instant badassery. It really kind of bugged me. And none more than the Force suggestion with Daniel Craig, the Stormtrooper. That bugs me to no end still.
Yes, I think it was the awakening. I think that was the moment she touched Luke's lightsaber was the moment that her Force badassery was unleashed. You know what I mean? Her Force was unleashed. I've sort of used that as, I don't want to say headcanon because it could very well be canon, but I've used that to rationalize how badass and how quickly she's able to use the Force. I think you and I were talking. I don't know if we recorded it, if we were recording or not, but I think that you can, or in the Star Wars universe, there's, just like she says, Luke Skywalker, I thought he was a myth. I think that people have myths and knowledge about what Jedi could do, you know, so I think the idea of a Jedi mind trick or Force manipulation, I don't think that's so out of the realm of what she might know that it was cheesy for her to do it on that Stormtrooper. I think that that's actually kind of cool. I think that was actually a kind of a clever way to do it. And even then, her fighting, you know, keeping up with Kylo Ren. A, Kylo Ren's never had any formal training either. Obviously, he's better than her. B, if you watch that scene, man, there's not a lot of fancy Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Darth Maul type of stuff going on. She's using the lightsaber, she's bashing with it, she's poking with it, she's cutting down branches to stop it. You know, it's more brutal. It's more along the lines of the fight at the end of Jedi or at the end of Empire. So right. I don't think, and we saw earlier in the movie, she obviously knows how to wield a bow. She's been living on Jakku her whole life. She's had to learn how to use a weapon at some point. So to me, it's not out of the realm of possibility that she would be able to do what she did, especially if there was like a Force awakening when she touched the lightsaber. And then when Kylo Ren's taunting her, not taunting her, but you know, trying to dissuade her to have him as her teacher, and he's like, you know, I can teach you the ways of the Force, and she's like, oh, the Force, and it goes all slow motion, and she closes her eyes, and she concentrates, and then, you know, she's able to beat his ass. He was injured. He was all mentally, you know, he was all emo, frazzled. I think it's rational. I think it's fair the way she was using the Force in this movie.
Well, you know, yeah, I would totally have to disagree with you on that. In a lot of points. I mean, some of it, yeah, you're going to get your little buzzy thingy. Yeah, fuck you.
Shot that down.
I definitely disagree on some of those points. Some of the more rudimentary stuff, sure. The intuition, you know, things like that. Yeah, absolutely, I can see that. But the mind trick, that definitely is a negative on my part, because that's a very specific skill that, you know, the Jedi had to learn, and it took them forever. You know, you had to go to school for this kind of shit. It's like she's like the Goodwill Hunting of fucking of the Jedi.
But that's not canon anymore, though.
Wait, whoa! Episode 1, 2, and 3 are definitely canon, and those Jedi had to learn their whole fucking lives.
No, I get that, but it's never specifically stated in the movies, like, oh, it takes this amount of time, or it's this rigorous.
Yeah, they did. Look at the little fucking Padawans.
No, I get that, but it's like, it's not fleshed out. It's fleshed out more in the novels, like, oh, well, you know, this is a very, you know, the type of skill it takes to learn this method, you know, is this and that. It's like, for all we know now, I mean, if no extraneous details existed, you could still have that scene in episode 2 with the younglings and still have Rey learn the mind trick in, you know, whatever happened with the Force vision, and it would still sort of jive, because, well, now we don't know how rigorous the training was, because we got 3 seconds of younglings getting trained. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
I'm just saying. I like your theory. I do, but I'm just saying. You know.
Well, it's true, but I mean, you got to think they're Padawans at this age. Fucking Anakin was still an apprentice at this age, you know. So between, you know, anywhere from age 5 to age 21, you're still learning. You're still an apprentice. So you still don't have all the ropes. The finer points probably are a little fuzzy. Now, I'll grant you, they do know most of those things. At, you know, by Anakin's age, he should pretty much have most of all that stuff down. But, you know, for 15, 16 years in the gap. I just don't think it's as easy as going on YouTube and clicking a video or the Star Wars equivalent, touching a lightsaber and getting visions and learning how to do it.
Fair enough,
So,
and I agree with that as well. Like I get it. I do get it. I'm just, and again, like I said, I'm just trying to rationalize it for myself.
No,
trying
no,
to make
yeah.
it make sense. And,
Right,
and you know, it is what it is.
if she hadn't done the Force suggestion, to be honest, to be blunt, if she hadn't done the Force suggestion, I would have bought into everything else. Because everything else would be a little more feasible. And you're absolutely right with the lightsaber duel. It wasn't finesse. It wasn't, this was not swordsmanship by any means. And, as we saw, Chewbacca, blasted Kylo Ren, before the duel. So they had that kind of evened out the battle, which is kind of a trope at this point. The bad guy has to get hurt so the underexperienced good guy has more of a fighting chance. Which also brings up another point, another little sin that I caught. Every time Han would sit there and shoot somebody with Chewbacca's bowcaster, he would blow them up and totally disintegrate them. That bowcaster packed quite a wallop. Yet when Chewbacca shoots Kylo Ren with it, he gets a little damage and that's it. He doesn't get eaten alive by a giant bolt of energy. So there's a bowcaster ex machina right there.
I thought that was hilarious. So every time he used the bowcaster, he was just
he loved it.
I love this thing. Yeah. There's you know what else I really like that I kind of hope comes back from this movie was the bounty hunter gangs that were after Han and Chewie when they first find the Falcon. The dudes from have you seen the Raid or the Raid 2, or do you know about that?
Mm-hmm.
It's like this came out I want to say in 2011 2012 is a movie called The Raid. It's this sort of breakthrough kung fu movie kind of that came out, written, directed, and stunt choreographed by these two dudes, and it was the two main the Kanji Club fighters, the one dude that was talking in the weird language, and the dude next to him. They're those guys, and J.J. Abrams cast them as that because they were so cool, and everybody's like, oh, the guys from the Raid. The Raid itself is crazy, amazing kung fu, some of the best choreographed stuff that you've ever seen. You really need to watch it. It's on Netflix.
Cool, I'll have to check it out.
And so he got those guys, and everybody's like, oh, there's gonna be an awesome kung fu battle, and then they get eaten by the Rathtars. I was really hoping that because I think the one that was talking, Yasu Leach or whatever his name is, I think he survived. So I'm really hoping that they come back and they're maybe chasing the Falcon because they don't know that Han died, and there's a secondary plot going on in the next couple movies regarding that. Because I really like those two gangs. I thought that was a really cool sort of addition or another layer to the Star Wars universe. I don't know who the actor was that played the Cockney guy, the First Order that they've got the droid or whatever. But I thought he was a good actor.
That was, I believe that was the guy, he was from Game of Thrones. He played Jojen, I can't remember the last name, but he was the frog guy. They were the Frog Twins or something like that from Game of Thrones.
Ooh,
I believe that was who he was. Really good actor, excellent in the show. So that's who he was.
Yeah, he cast a ton of Game of Thrones actors. The Asian X-Wing pilot, she's apparently from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
The little, I don't want to say the little kid, but the young, the Star Destroyer guy that he's like, there's a TIE fighter loose or whatever. That kid, he's been in Doctor Who. Apparently, he's been in Game of Thrones. He's in the Maze Runner movies. So I guess J.J. Abrams is a really big fan of Game of Thrones.
Who isn't? Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, Captain Phasma is Brienne of Tarth, so, gotta love that. Gwendolyn Christie is fucking awesome. I love her, so I was really glad that she was in that. He actually had some amazing cast choices all around. The guy from Heroes, Matt Parkman, I can't remember the actor's name, but he was in... Yeah, there you go. He was in it, and then Lost, I can't remember that guy's name, but he played Miles.
Ken Lung.
Thank you. You know the names? I know the...
Yeah,
what they were in.
I'm immersed in this fucking movie. I'm immersed in
the
culture of this movie, yeah. Well, Greg Grunberg, he's he was in Heroes. He was Matt Parkman in Heroes. But he apparently is a childhood friend of J.J. Abrams So he's
Oh
actually
shit.
he's the voice of Kirk's dad in Star Trek One when he's on the phone. He's like, "What are you
Oh,
doing with my car?" That's his voice. He's been in he was in Super 8. He's like in every one of JJ's movies.
I did
So
not
yeah,
know that.
I was really hoping he was Porkins Jr., but his character is
That'd have
Snaps
been
Wexley.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, nobody wants Porkins Jr. because that just says something about your fucking weight. So,
Hey,
yeah.
I will take that role and embrace it. I will make it my own. Believe you
Yeah.
me. Yeah, I was telling Christina, like, if I was to cosplay, like, I want to cosplay as Poe Dameron, you know what I mean? But the only one I could pull off would be Snaps. You know, Porkins Jr., sadly enough.
Nice.
But yeah. I really like that. I have a feeling that Snaps is probably going to be like the new Wedge, just because he's such a good friend of JJ and he survived the trench run and all that. So
Makes sense. I could buy that. I could see that.
yeah. But what'd you think of Starkiller Base?
You know, as far as mirroring episode 4 and kicking it up a notch, it was a great idea. I like that it was so much more functional than the Death Star, or at least more explainable as to how the the super fucking power worked. Now, the plausibility of it, if you want to get into the science of it, it's a lot less plausible. I mean, okay, draining a sun, that's pretty fucking implausible, but what I'm talking about is shooting a blast across multiple star systems,
Yeah.
nobody noticing, nobody paying attention. How fast would this have to go to actually get across multiple star systems? Because it's not going in it's not going through hyperspace. It's just going through regular, plain old fucking space. It would be quite
into 5 different fucking beams. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And nobody has time to get out of the way. I was like, get on your ships, get the fuck out of there, Jesus!
Run!
No.
Run! The significance of that scene of what the Starkiller Base did is sort of lost on a lot of people, it seems. At least the ones that I've talked to. What it was doing, it wasn't just like destroying planets for the sake of destroying planets to be evil. Turns out that was the Hosnian system. It's 5 planets, and that was the current base of the New Republic. So when it shows that one planet and it's those people that are like on the balcony looking up, and it's that one weird alien with the fur, that's actually that's the Mon Mothma. That's the head of the New Republic. I forget his name. And that girl that's standing next to him, apparently she had a scene, a deleted scene, and she is sort of like Leia's liaison between the Resistance and the New Republic, and so that was supposed to be some more emotional impact there. But those 5 planets are the Hosnian system. That's the seat of the New Republic government. So that's what was destroyed. So basically, when we're going into Episode 8, we're going in and it's like lawless. There's no Republic. It's like at the beginning of Episode 4 when they're in the conference room and they're like, the last remnants of the old Republic have finally been eradicated. Now that's what just happened. And,
yeah, I figured. I figured that.
No, go ahead.
I figured that, which is really kind of tragic because they really glossed over that big time. I mean, this is the fall of an entire government, and it's not even 10 seconds of explanation. So, I don't know.
There was no real weight behind it. Yeah.
No, there really wasn't.
And everybody thought that was supposed to be Coruscant because not only was there no weight behind the actual filming of it, but they don't even mention the name of the system. Like I found out just by watching other videos and stuff. And but the reason that the Hosnian system is the one that was destroyed is because it's the seat of the New Republic, like I said. But the way it works, I guess, in this new canon, is that every so often or every however many years, the seat of the New Republic moves to a different system. So it just so happened that Hosnia Prime or something was where it was at now, and that's why that was destroyed. So it wasn't Coruscant. A lot of people thought that was Coruscant. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I kind of thought that at first, but it didn't really jive that would be Coruscant, so I kind of didn't figure it was. So, interesting.
Yeah. Some pretty cool stuff. Have you been sort of keeping up with any of the well, I guess now it's no longer the Journey to the Force Awakens, but any of the peripheral stuff? Like, I know you've been reading the Star Wars comic, right? But that's obviously in Luke, and that's like prior to all this stuff, right? Is there anything that's now come out now that the movie's out that's actually sort of like juicy tidbits or stuff that you might have seen coming? Nothing.
No, comics-wise, no, they haven't really touched too much on it lately. Now, from what I've heard, they're actually supposed to, in upcoming comics, really touch on some of the things that we see in The Force Awakens. So I'm really looking forward to that. But nothing's come out yet that really has much to do with The Force Awakens.
Yeah. Hopefully they introduce this system or something, to give it a little bit more weight, at least on the periphery, if not in the movie itself.
Yeah, it really needs some background for sure.
Yeah. So what do you think about the whole idea that the Resistance is sort of under the table funded by the New Republic? Like the New Republic doesn't really acknowledge them. What do you think about that whole situation? Like the difference between the Rebellion and the Resistance?
I didn't really think it should be called the Resistance because that implies that the government's pretty much already fallen, or it implies that they're the underdog. When in actuality, really, the First Order was the underdog of this. The Republic was the governing, body in the galaxy, and then the First Order is the sort of like the remnant, kind of the Imperial remnant that's bent on taking back the galaxy. So, if anything, they would have been more of the Resistance. So, I didn't really think the name flowed very well, but it was a great idea. It seemed that they were like the Special Forces branches, the Special Forces.
Yeah.
Special Forces branch of the New Republic. So I think they could have probably done something a little bit better naming it, just to clear up a little bit of the ambiguity as to exactly what they were.
Yeah. What did you think about Snoke? Let's talk about Snoke. There's so much freaking speculation, and we didn't really get to see him. First, let's talk about him technically in the movie himself. He shows up, sort of, he's on this gigantic throne. He's like 50 feet tall. It's not revealed that it's a hologram until later, until the end of that scene. What did you think when you first saw him?
At first I thought, my God, this guy's 50 feet tall. What the fuck is he? I couldn't... Yeah. What manner of creature can be that huge? And then he blinks out. I'm like, oh, okay, hologram. Very cool. But I think that he's freaking awesome as far as the character goes. There is a lot of speculation everywhere from Darth Plagueis to Jar Jar Binks. There's a lot of questions as to who this guy is. But, as far as his look and his feel and his tone, it's awesome. I don't think that Andy Serkis really went through a lot of difficulty to do the voice. It's definitely not one of his more out there kind of creative kind of concepts, but still very cool. It reminded me of not Charles Dance, but the guy who played the kind of master daddy vampire in Underworld. I can't remember his name. The Scottish dude.
Charles Nighy.
Thank you. Yeah.
Or Bill Nighy. I'm sorry, Bill Nighy.
Is it Bill? I thought it was Charles. Really?
No, it's Bill. Yeah, he was Davy Jones in the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So it kind of felt like him kind of playing that, and his look kind of felt like that. I kind of felt that Snoke looked like what he would look like, but it was still a really good job. CG? It was used as well as it could possibly be used. It was very underscored. It was like, okay, it's a Star Wars hologram, other than the fact that it was 50 feet tall and we don't get to see that very often. I think that's probably that, and a lot of the battle on Jakku with the Falcon, the air battle, is probably the best of the CG that really... they stretched it. That's as far as it should have gone, and that's as far as it did go, and that's perfect.
Well, see, that's where I'm very happy. I agree with the Millennium Falcon battle. Like, yeah, that was really well done, really understated. I actually kind of feel that the CG that they used specifically for Snoke was a little much. It was definitely... I thought that, it was definitely Gollum caliber, which maybe 15 years ago was really good, but, we've seen now Serkis especially doing the Planet of the Apes stuff, and that looks so photorealistic. I thought that Snoke actually had kind of a cartoony PS2 kind of vibe to him, but that's just me, you know. And it wasn't so jarring that it took me out of the movie, and I'm not like some of these people who are like, well, that was horrible and that ruined the movie. No, not at all. So yeah, with Snoke, I just I feel like Snoke's the CG that they used for him was a little bit cartoony, a little bit too animated. He had the giant upper lip that made him look kind of like a monkey, and he's got the weird. It kind of reminded me of Arseface from Preacher. You know what I mean? That he's drawn. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's that. I don't necessarily think that I am of the camp that doesn't think that he necessarily need to be a CG motion capture character. Unless, of course, there's going to be a twist. He's probably smaller than Yoda or something like that, which isn't necessarily the most creative or dramatically fulfilling, I guess, thing. You know, it's kind of obvious, but who knows? I mean, I love Andy Serkis, and I'm glad that he's a part of the Star Wars universe. The character itself, though, like what he says, the way he's acting, what he does, he's totally. I'm buying it all the way. I like how evil he seems to be. I like the idea that he might be a Sith. I mean, he's training Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren, so he's either a Sith or he's just maybe he's like Lor Santeca. Maybe he's like a disciple of the Church of the Sith or something like that. But I like the character, and I hope to see more of him. But yeah.
As do I. Yeah, and I think that he's definitely. I think he's going to play the Emperor character in Return of the Jedi. Is kind of how he's going to play out in the long run. You know, not going to have an active battle. You know, like the Emperor character in Revenge of the Sith. You know, I don't think we'll be seeing him grabbing a lightsaber and flipping around. I think he'll kind of be the badass behind the badass.
Yeah, and I mean that sort of goes along with the whole Star Wars pattern kind of thing. You know what I mean? That they're doing sort of mirroring parallels and stuff. So I totally see that happening. I like the character. I like him enough that I want to see more of him. You know what I mean? So that's always a good thing, I think. And he's definitely the type of evil that I like in these movies. It's arguable that Palpatine was one of the best characters in the prequel trilogy, but Palpatine was the awesome bad guy in the original trilogy, and I think they're doing that with Snoke in this case. So I'm really liking it. And again, I'm looking forward to more.
Definitely, but and I think probably the good thing with Palpatine, and hopefully something that they take with Snoke as well, is that he's always a step ahead. So, he's got one foot in front of the good guys for so long until he finally, his hubris, catches up with him, and that's when everything flips. And I kind of like that development in a plot. So hopefully that's kind of the direction they'll go with it.
Yeah. I definitely think that regardless, we're going to get to see a lot more of him in the coming episodes. I'm thinking that we're going to probably get a good reveal about who he is, or at least what he's about, in episode 8. We have now about less than a year and a half to episode 8. I can't wait for that. Judging now that what we've seen, and now it's finally come to fruition, we see now what episode 7 is and what it's proposed, what it's set up. What do you think we're going to see in episode 8, or what do you want to see in episode 8?
I think we're going to see a mirror of the Empire, really, or at least very close to it. I think it's going to end on a downer. It's going to end on a bad, a dark note. It's going to be the lowest point for our heroes because it's Act 2. It's if they follow the classic, Greek format of tragedy, which the original trilogy certainly did. This is Act 2, the end of Act 2. That's kind of the turning point. It's where the rising action hits, and going into Act 3, everything finally starts to the watershed. Everything starts to crest down into the conclusion. So episode 8 will definitely have that rising action to where it's going to be the most critical point for the heroes, the villains, everybody involved. So I think we'll find out, hopefully, I'm really hoping that the big reveal, the big question on everybody's mind, as far as it's Rey's lineage, I'm pretty much hoping that that's definitely going to come out. And I think that I have a feeling that they will do another practice duel with Ren and Rey, just to kind of get set up for the final battle. Maybe they'll be both a little more badass at this point. Luke will, have a montage with Rey, and Snoke will have a montage with Ren, and they'll meet in the middle.
Yeah. Nice. Do you think that Luke will have a more active part, or do you think he's gonna sort of stick to the more Yoda Obi-Wan role?
I really hope Luke has more of an active part, but I don't think he's going to. I think his action will be very, very short. He may have a scene or two where he'll have to pull out some super badassery, but I don't think there will be a lot of it. I think it'll be quick, and it'll be some sort of leeway into what Rey has to do, to complete her journey. Because as we all know, this is all about passing a torch. So
yeah, I really hope they don't kill Luke.
As do I.
Yeah, because they already killed Han. Like, what are they gonna do? Just in Episode 9, are they gonna kill Leia? You know what I mean? That they killed their legacy actor for this trilogy. Let Luke live on and train Jedi. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, and killing him it would be a Joss Whedon move. It'd be killing somebody for the sake of killing him at this point. The death of Han it propelled the story forward. It was necessary. But you're right. There needs to be a master. There needs to be a teacher to teach a generation of Jedi. So Luke really, really, really has to stay. Leia doesn't have to stay. I would like to see her stay, only for the simple reason is I really liked Leia in the expanded universe when she finally got to her Jedi shit. When she finally started, studying to be a Jedi. She was pretty old, and then she was studying under a younger master. I just loved the way that all worked out, and I'm really sad to see that possibly have gone. We don't know yet. We don't know. We didn't see very much of Leia. She's clearly force sensitive and very force sensitive. If she could feel Han being killed that far away, so there is definitely something to that. So I'd like to see Leia a little more.
Yeah, I think we're definitely gonna get some mother-son stuff going on. I definitely think that there's gonna be a point where there's a confrontation between her and Kylo, and because that wasn't really touched upon in this movie. It was more about the father-son. There was the whole if you see our son, bring him home kind of deal. So I think that we're gonna get more of Leia being the mom, which is really cool, sort of the Jedi mom. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe even in the end she's the one that takes down Ren.
Be interesting.
Just spitballing, just talking out loud here, but I look forward to that because I really don't think that I don't know. I just think that it would be sort of dramatically empty to kill another one of the legacy actors. Or legacy characters. It's just kind of like meh. I don't want to see more of that.
No, I agree. I agree completely. I don't want to see it either. None of us wanted to see Han go, but we understand. We saw it for what it was. It is what it is. So I agree with you 110%. They should pretty much leave the rest alone. If they really want to kill a legacy character, get rid of Chewie. Bring Han in, or bring Lando in. He can die. Shit, he doesn't do anything.
Yeah. He's just there, being all smooth. But what do you think about actually bringing Lando in? Was sort of one thing that I was thinking. Now that the Falcon is essentially Rey's, I honestly think it should have gone to Chewie, and Chewie should have been in the pilot seat, and she should have been in the co-pilot seat. But now that Rey is essentially the owner and the pilot of the Millennium Falcon, I can totally see Lando coming in to sort of, I don't know, do something. I would not be surprised if they bring him in. Like, I'm actually kind of I'm kind of banking on it. I'm looking forward to it if it does happen. It really do.
That would be interesting. Yeah, it is. It wouldn't be a bad. They're all old as hell, so really, it wouldn't make too much of a difference. And I don't think it would be a bad thing as long as they did it right. Don't just have him in there for the sake of having him in there. Maybe it'd be kind of cool if he tried to steal the Falcon back. I think that'd be pretty funny.
That would be awesome. Yeah. Actually, that would work right into the whole bounty hunter sort of storyline kind of thing. He comes in to try to save the Falcon, but he's actually trying to steal it away. Also, you know what I mean? That would be really cool. I'd like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, luckily we don't have another 2 or 3 years to wait for this movie. It's going to be out in May of 2017, so we've got just a little over a year for it, and we have Rogue One to keep us busy in the meantime. You know, coming out 12 months from now, 12 months and 14 days, or
Yep.
I'm sorry, 11 months and 14 days. Less than a year for Rogue One. That's awesome. And
Yep.
from then on, it's you know, we get that in a year. Then we get, after 5 months, we get episode 8, and then from then on, every single year, every May, because they're going back to releasing them in May, which I'm glad for. And granted, I like the Star Wars Christmas. Like, to me, I liked it. You know, I like the weather. It was great. You know, I don't mind that they're going back to the May releases, but at least this year and next year we'll get the Star Wars Christmas movie, not the Star Wars
Nice.
Christmas special. Star Wars
Yeah.
Christmas
No,
movie.
no, no, no. God, no. Please, no. No life days. God.
But yeah. But all right, man. So that was my thoughts. That was your thoughts. Anything else you have in mind, or anything else you want to talk about? Say about the Force Awakens.
No, I think my accolades and my gripes have been pretty well laid out. You know, obviously it was a masterpiece. The little hiccups notwithstanding, you're gonna get it no matter what you're doing. So hey, don't. You can't expect perfection, and that's what I sit there and see people. Oh well, it wasn't this, it wasn't that, and you're like, come on, man. What do you want? Really, you can't.
Yeah.
I don't think there has been a perfect movie. I think maybe Empire Strikes Back came pretty damn close, but even it had its flaws. So I mean,
Yeah.
take from it what you will. It is what it is. But it's beautiful and it's great, and you know we need to look forward to what's coming because they're on the right track. I mean, we knew back in '99 when the Phantom Menace came out, there was a collective oh shit because this was the direction it was going in, and Lucas was not apologetic about it. He was like, "This is the way I'm going with it. Deal with it or don't deal with it." And you know, we had to deal with it. We had to accept it for what it was. And the second one came, and we're like, "Oh God, okay." The third one, you're like, "All right, well, you know, it is what it is. You know, the best of the three." So, you know, we had to compromise right out of the gates for the prequels, and we weren't used to that because of the original trilogy, and there was no compromising there, other than the Ewoks. You know, there was completely and utterly, you know, we were ready for each one. We were happy about it, excited about it, instead of grudgingly acceptance of it. So, and that's the feeling that we're at now, you know. Now we're like, okay, you know, if this is the direction they're going in, if this is their template, if this is what they're going to be molding off of, you can't do wrong, man. I mean, it's going to take a lot for them to fuck it up, you know. So
it really
I'm
is. So, having a sense of anticipation as opposed to a sense of dread is definitely a nice change of pace.
Exactly.
And I mean, it's in good hands. I like that the next two movies are going to be written by the same guy. You know, he's directing the next one, and they have a different director for the third one. But there's going to be some consistency going on, you know, through this. And it's going to be, again, positive consistency. It wasn't, you know, it's not George Lucas writing and directing all three. So yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait. I'm glad that we were finally able to do this episode. We tried like 2 or 3 times, obviously, and it didn't work out, the holidays and just whatever. But now we got this out. It's gonna be up. Well, I'm saying this now. People that are watching it, obviously, it's already up. So. But yeah, hopefully we get back on track with the rest of the episodes. Hopefully we can do another one, you know, next week. Obviously we have New Year's weekend this weekend, so, and we're going to go see the movie on Saturday. So I don't know if we're going to get one up, you know, this week from whatever time you're watching this. But either way, yeah, I've pretty much given all my accolades. I have obviously, I think I tried to rationalize some of the bad parts a little harder than you have, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to make myself not feel let down at all by this movie, and I don't know, I think even without me trying to headcanon my way out of some of the problems, it's still a fucking fantastic movie. It's still a great movie.
It is at that.
It's a great ride. Yeah. If you've watched this entire episode and you haven't seen the movie, do yourself a favor and just go watch the fucking movie. I doubt that that's the case, but if it is, just go watch the movie. It's fucking phenomenal.
Yes, it is. I agree with you completely. Well, I think that's our show for the week. So, as always, thank you everybody for watching. We really appreciate it. Be sure to check us out on our YouTube channel at Nerd Lives Matter, as well as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that other social media at Nerd Lives Matter as well. And this has been Nerd Lives Matter, the podcast for outcasts, where every life matters, unless you happen to have like a thermal exhaust port somewhere. I am Qui-Gon Dwayne, and for AB1 Kenobi, good night, everybody, and may the Force be with you.